What's the difference between the sanctions against the four settlers in Israel, the four settlers in the West Bank in Israel, and the sanctions against the oligarchs and against the Russian economy that Mr. Biden peddled out as something that he said was morally essential? At the time, I think I made it quite clear that I don't approve of morally essential sanctions because they are not efficacious, that wonderful word. They don't achieve anything except sort of needling the bull, stirring the hornet's nest, and actually damaging ourselves. The American economy took a huge hit. The Russian economy took a little hit as well. The Russian economy has struggled, but only because America was so badly damaged. Britain, already damaged because of Brexit, followed suit and has suffered as well. The only people who are damaged in this are the people who apply the sanctions. In the end, Russia, Iran, they managed to live without it. I see no problem at all with funding Zelensky. I think funding Zelensky is the right thing to do. And I think we should ensure that as long as Zelensky wishes to resist the Russian invasion, he should be supported. But I think because Zelensky says you have to issue sanctions against Russia, that doesn't mean that we follow suit. Unfortunately now, rather too late, the West is learning to be more discerning and saying, oh, well, we're going to promise to give you this weapon, but we're not actually going to deliver it until it's too late. That is rather stupid. Promises do not win a war. Weapons, soldiers, numbers win a war. Sanctions do not win a war. Sanctions stir the hornet's nest. And we should have, if we hadn't imposed sanctions, we could still be talking to Russia. Could we be talking to President Putin? Well, not unless we've got some sort of stethoscope on the fridge. But and even if Putin were alive, if we hadn't imposed sanctions, we would be able to have a conversation with Putin. In fact, it would be a good idea. We might be able to change his mind. Even if he were dead, we might be able to change his mind. I'm sure he's not completely dead anyway. The piles still linger. You ask, is the way he's walking, is that because of the gun he's carrying in his holster? Is that because he was used to carrying a gun in his holster when he was working for the KGB? I think when he was working for the KGB, he was carrying people's handbags, not a gun in his holster. No, the funny walk is, I'm afraid, piles. And nothing more, nothing less. Now, of course, it's a bag of Smedley HP frozen peas. But nevertheless, if we had kept the avenues of conversation open, if we had not imposed sanctions, we could have been talking, we could have started to engineer some sort of back-channeling, depressuring of the situation. Because in the end, the only reason Putin invaded Russia was to bolster his own macho image in the advance of the election campaign. Lock somebody into a corner, as he said himself, the rats on the landing. If you corner them, they attack. We have cornered Mr. Putin financially. So stupid. So stupid. And so stupid for Britain to financially corner Mr. Putin. Britain that was so tied up with oligarchs' wealth. So, how do we wriggle out of this problem? The first thing I think we have to do is to ensure that there is somebody to talk to in Russia. I don't think that's going to be Putin. Whether he's alive or dead, I don't think it's going to be Putin. He's been too badly damaged by the reckless way in which we have behaved. Could Mr. Trump, when he comes into power, arrange those conversations? Yes, I think he could. Should he then stop the sanctions? I think that would be a terribly good idea. Should he stop the delivery of weapons to Zelensky? Absolutely not. Should he stop the funding of Zelensky? Absolutely not. But stopping sanctions gives a signal that we approve of these people. That's not quite the position we should be in. We should never have sanctioned these people in the first place. Stopping sanctions means approval. Starting sanctions was the mistake. So how do we wheel back from that? Unfortunately, there's not much of a position, there's not much room except for capitulation. And that mustn't happen. I'm afraid, rather like the Israeli-Gaza scenario, we're sort of locked into a particular slipstream because of stupidity. And because people were too taken up by their own rhetoric, and they didn't pay attention to reality. We need to pay attention to reality. We need to be more careful in future. I've got something in my hair. I don't know what it is. Probably Mr. Putin. Anyway, good night.